Thanks for checking into the show today. I'm your host, Christopher Calandra. This is the Simply Financial Podcast, and it's episode number 44 of season 4. On today's episode, I wanted to talk about the 5 signs that show you're ready to retire. The first of the 5 signs actually has very little to do with finances and more to do with how you're going to spend your time. Because in my opinion, you ought to have a plan for your post-retirement life. Many people are anxious to get out of the rat race, if you will, where they either sell their business or they leave the employee of their company. They're anxious to do that for any number of reasons. But I think it's also important to have an eye towards what you want to do so that it's less about leaving something and as much, if not more, about what you're going to move to. What do you anticipate you are going to spend your time doing? What hobbies, charitable pursuits? I know travel is the most classic example. I want to retire and travel. But what are you going to do with your newfound free time? This is an important emotional question for many people that have worked 8-10 hours a day for the duration of their career to all of a sudden not have that to fill up your time and calendar. It can be problematic. It can be even a little depressing in certain instances. So what we want our clients to do, what I suggest you do, is focus on the financial issues, which we're going to talk about, but also focus on what you want to do with your time. And I think that will make for a happier, more successful and fulfilling retirement. So step 1, have a plan for your post-retirement life. Number 2, we're going to get into the financial stuff, is you should have a financial plan for your retirement. So some of that is making sure that your nest egg is large enough, your wealth is large enough to accommodate your expected spending needs and wants in retirement. It's not just about, though, how much wealth you've built up. It's also important to have a plan for what your expected spending is going to be, where you would dip into your funds if there should be an unexpected emergency or crisis or some type of problem. You also want to focus on where the income sources are going to come from. Social Security, pensions, traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs, bank accounts, investment accounts, real estate income. All of that should be part of your retirement plan. A key question in that plan, of course, is when to collect Social Security. We work closely with our clients to help them determine when they should collect Social Security. We also do a retirement analysis for our clients that forecasts the likelihood that they will outlive their money, where they could generate income from, factoring in Social Security, pensions, all the various assets, the impact on debt if there are any. So you want to have a financial plan. That's the second sign that you're ready to retire. Number 3, I touched on this, is to have a spending plan. This is challenging because when you retire, you've never done that before. So you want to have a plan on what you're going to spend money on. You want to have a retirement budget that's probably going to be different than your working budget. For example, you've probably been contributing to your retirement account, perhaps a 401k, for a very long time. That will not be, in all likelihood, in your retirement budget. So you want to have a spending plan. And this ties in closely with number 2 because you want to know how much you can spend and you want to figure out where you want to spend that money. Somebody may put an emphasis on the line item for travel in their budget, but somebody else that's retiring, that may not be important to them. They may want to allocate money for something else that's very important to them. But you want to have a spending plan. And if you have a spending plan, that's a good third sign that indicates that you're ready to retire. Number 4, and this is a thorny issue in today's America, and that is that your health care is covered. Now, I say it's thorny. If you're 65 or older, it's much less thorny because you're Medicare age eligible. For individuals that are looking to retire before then, that's where the thorniness comes in. You may be able to keep your health care benefits per the working relationship you have with your employer. You may be able to go on COBRA and buy insurance in essence from your employer, or to be able to get the same insurance as you had while you were working, but you had to pay for it. You may have to go on Obamacare or the exchange, if you will. There's different terminology for that. But you may have to secure your own health care. If you're under 65 and you have to secure your own health care, there are subsidies available through Obamacare, more formally known as the Affordable Care Act. But that's a really key consideration, is how to get your health care covered when you're looking to retire prior to age 65. You definitely want to have a plan for this, though. You do not want to retire and have that be a vulnerability, because that is a clear way that your plan could get jostled quite a bit. So number 4 is have a plan to have your health care covered. Simplest thing is you're age 65 or older and you're eligible for Medicare. And then number 5 is that you are debt-free or pretty darn close. My personal opinion and my professional opinion is that the ideal situation is you retire and you're debt-free, or at least be radically under-leveraged. Retiring debt-free is attractive because it's simple. You don't have that many bills. If you're not paying out monies each month, it's a simplification process. And retiring and having peace and security and simplification, I think, is pretty attractive. Plus, the strain on your finances and your wealth that you've accumulated is magnified when you don't have to pay debt service. I think it's very, very important when you retire to really have your consumer debt cleared up. Consumer debt would consist of things like car loans, student loans, credit cards. By the way, if you listen to this, you may say, well, why is Chris talking about somebody who retires having student loan debt? And you may not be in this situation, but I would draw your attention to the fact that a lot of parents take on student loan debt to help get their children through school, and then that debt is not paid off and is still lingering at retirement age. That is problematic. It's really not a desirable set of circumstances, but that's why I just mentioned student loan. It's probably not their student loan from when they went to school, more likely debt that they picked up to help get their children through college. So we'd like you to be debt-free, especially no consumer debt, which tends not to be backed by assets, tends to be more expensive than mortgage and second mortgage type debt. So consumer debt, I think, is a no-no as you approach retirement. It's really, really desirable to get rid of that debt, and that's why it's one of the 5 signs that indicate that you're ready to retire. In terms of mortgage, I would much, much prefer to retire when you don't have any debt, which would include having your home or homes paid off. But if somebody, and I was interacting with a client of mine last week, and they do have a small mortgage. It's like $100,000, but they have wealth way above that, and they have terrific income, including pensions and Social Security. They're not that anxious to pay off the debt. Candidly, I would prefer they pay off the debt, but they're not in a hurry to pay off a debt, and it's not hurting them. Certainly not going to blow up their plan. They're not bothered by it. If I was in their shoes, I would pay it off. But they are certainly under-leveraged, and they have no consumer debt. So number 5 is we would like you, a good sign that you're ready to retire is to be either completely debt-free and or have no consumer debt and only a mortgage, and even at that, for you to be very under-leveraged. So just to review 5 signs that are an indication that you're ready to retire is that you have a plan for your post-retirement life. What are you going to do that will provide your life color and fulfillment once you stop working. Number 2, to have a financial plan, a financial strategy. Number 3, have a spending plan that's well thought out. Number 4, make sure your health care is covered. And then number 5 is to have little or no debt. So thank you for listening to this episode of the Simply Financial podcast. If you're a client of ours, we've probably covered much of this before. If you have any questions or this discussion prompted some things you would like to talk about, please, as always, reach out to us. If you're not a client and you're interested in finding out how we might be able to help you win with money and talk about how perhaps you might be ready to retire soon or want to have a plan to be able to retire soon, go to the website, elliottwealth.com. Elliott has 2 L's and 2 T's, and sign up for a complimentary consultation where we could talk about how we might be able to help you win with money. Also, I always ask, it's very important to me, subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already. That is a big help to me. Again, I'll be back with you on the next episode of the Simply Financial podcast. Thanks for listening.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of SagePoint Financial Incorporated and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. No strategy can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Please note, the information being provided is strictly as a courtesy. When you link to any of the websites provided here, you are leaving this website. We make no representation as to the completeness or accuracy of the information provided at these websites, nor is the company liable for any direct or indirect technical or system issues or any consequences arising out of your access to your use of third-party technologies, websites, information, and programs made available through this website. When you access one of these websites, you are leaving our website and assume total responsibility and risk for your use of the websites you are linking to. Securities and advisory services are offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Insurance services offered through Elliott Wealth Management, LLC, not affiliated with SagePoint Financial.